Hi, welcome to Paint Talk, the weekly show where I discuss my thoughts on everything painting. Today I'm going to talk about the biggest misconceptions about oil painting that I hear. Before we begin, I just want to let you know to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you are liking this video and this channel. Also, if you need any help with what oil painting supplies to get, I got lists in the descriptions of all my videos of the supplies that I get, some Amazon links where you can get those. These are not the most expensive high-end, top-of-the-line materials that you can buy, but they're also not dirt cheap, worthless things that you're going to throw away in 2 weeks. They're what I think are the best bang for your buck and great for beginners to start using. All right, let's jump on in. Misconceptions with oil painting. The first one, the most kind of overarching one that I hear a lot is that oil paints are harder. And I disagree with this a lot. All right, let's just compare oils to watercolors first. Watercolors, you can mess up. You got to leave the white of the paper for the white in the scene. And so if you paint over that white, there's no getting it back. With oils, you can always wipe it off. It's slow drying time and you can always paint over it. So in that sense, you can never really mess up, which I love. It allows me such a freedom while painting. And, when I paint, I just go, when you don't have to worry about messing up and having to start over, it gives you such a freedom and a confidence while painting that I feel produces, really good results. So, just in the sense of compared it to watercolors, the fact that watercolors, you can mess up to the point of having to get a new, canvas, sheet of paper, whatever, and start again. Oils are definitely easier than watercolors in that sense. All right, so with acrylics, most people just use, water with their acrylics, and you have no real latitude with the consistency of the paint, really. You can get it thinner with the water, but with oils, you can use different mediums to get certain textures, and you're not gonna really be able to get that with acrylics. And with acrylics, I know a lot of it is layering, and you do a layer and it dries. They're gonna dry quick anyway, so you're constantly building over dried layers, which some people find easier. That's what I feel like, that's what a lot of people think that's easier, so when they start oils and things aren't drying really fast and they can't layering, they're like, oh, this is so hard, it's not drying. It's like oils aren't supposed to dry, and it might be difficult at first to change over to that, but once you do get the hang of it, it is much easier than layering, because when you put the paint down, it's not set in stone. That's the great thing about oils, is you can get the paint on the canvas and then you work that paint that's on that canvas. You blend in other paint with it. You can, push it, pull it, lighten it, darken it. You can't really do that as much with acrylics because they dry so quickly. And I know at first that can seem more difficult. But think about it like writing in cursive. I know they don't even teach that in school these days, and a lot of you probably don't even know how to write cursive. But the thing with cursive writing is it's hard to begin with, but once you get it, you can write a lot faster. That's kind of like what, painting with oils is like. Yeah, it might be a little hard at first, but trust me, once you get the hang of it, you'll be like, wow, this is so much easier. And the thought of painting with other mediums, will seem like, oh, that seems kind of hard. That's why I think, honestly, I think if I tried to play with acrylics or watercolors, it wouldn't turn out that great, because I think they're going to be more difficult than oils. Another thing that I hear about is that oil paints are toxic. Now, I want to be careful here and not make it sound like oil paints are completely safe in every single way. You can eat them, you can rub them all over your body and nothing's going to happen. That's not true, but I feel like they're blown it's blown way out of proportion, their toxicity. I think that comes from a lot, back in the day when paints were made straight from minerals or whatever they got it from in nature, they were toxic. But today, with the health standards of everything, they're so conscious of that most of the paints, especially the store-bought paints that you're buying, or the cheaper paints, are not going to be that toxic. Don't eat them, don't rub large amounts of it on yourself or something. But most people worry about is the fumes, and that doesn't necessarily come so much from the oil paints or the linseed oil, but the paint thinner. That's the one thing that you do have to be aware of, and there is odorless paint thinner, so you don't smell it. But still, you don't want to, get a lot of it on you consistently for years and years and years. There are artists that have had bad reactions because they painted for 20, 30 years, you know, getting that stuff on them and everything and breathing it in, and now they can't use it because they use it so much. But you know, just make sure you're in a, you know, a well ventilated area. You know, open a window. Don't, you know, be huffing the stuff or sitting in a closet painting. You know, be smart about it. But the fact that, you know, people think that if they go and paint, you know, for 2 hours in their living room with oil paints that they're gonna like get cancer is just not true. That doesn't mean not to be careful and, you know, read labels and be safe and everything, but don't let it being toxic keep you from starting to oil paint. All right, now this is a big one. This has actually kept me from picking up oils for as long as I did, which is it's more expensive to paint oils. And I guess it is, but you know, it's not that, you know, like you can get tubes of paint for under $10, you know, and when you're starting out, if you're just getting the primary colors and white, you know, you're not going to be spending that much money. Yeah, you have to pay money for, you know, paint thinner. You can get paint thinner for like $10 for a jug. It's not, you know, I know with acrylics, you know, all you need is water, which you just get out of your faucet, and brushes, but the cost of entry is so low in terms of what you get in return and being able to paint. It's not like you're gonna have to, you know, you don't think that you need to go out and buy these little tubes of paint for $40 a tube. You don't need to do that. Like, don't do that. That's dumb, especially if you're starting out. Don't. Go to Michael's, get the Windsor, get the pack, the little packs of, you know, whatever for $15. It doesn't matter. You're just starting out. Like, it's better to gain momentum than getting the best materials. It doesn't, you're just starting out, you know, you shouldn't have the best materials. You're not going to know how to use the best materials. You probably couldn't tell the difference between the cheapest materials and the best materials, so why get them? You'll know when you want to up your materials because you will feel you need to achieve a certain thing in your work. You'll be hitting a plateau or something won't be working, and a lot of times changing your materials can be the answer to certain problems like that, but it will come naturally. You don't need to force it. Don't think that you need, oh, you know, I gotta start oil paint, I gotta make sure I got the best canvas. You know, if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do it right. I'm gonna get the best canvas, the best oil paints, the best medium, know what to do. You know, don't. That's like the absolute worst thing that you could possibly do. And it happens a lot, especially with all these artists on YouTube. Like, you know, they're painters that have been painting for 30 years. Of course, they're going to be using, you know, tubes of paint that cost $80 a tube. They're going to be using all this expensive stuff because that's their job. Like, that's what they've, you know, pretty much dedicated their life to, and their masters that have been doing for 30 years. They're going to have that, but that's not you. Like, you don't need that level of stuff. And it's just another thing preventing you from starting, from making progress. Like, the biggest thing is momentum. And you're not going to gain momentum by waiting until you have enough money to buy all these expensive materials. So it doesn't need to be expensive. All right, medium. This, I feel like it's the thing that gets the most views on my channel. It's the thing people are looking up the most, which is interesting because when I first started oil painting, there was no big deal about medium. It was like I went to an art center, they supplied the materials, which was awesome. It wasn't great materials, but, you know, they had big bins of paints, and the teacher just said, here's some linseed oil. And you just had this little thing of linseed oil next to your paint thinner. And it was, you know, pretty simple. Just clean your brush when you want, you know, get the color off your brush, you know, swish it around in the paint thinner. You're painting, you know, your paint is a little dry. You want to, you know, loosen up the paint a bit, or, you know, change the consistency. You have a dip a little linseed oil, and now the paint will flow a little better on the canvas in the areas that you want. And you just got to kind of feel it out. But man, oh man, has people on YouTube made this complicated because, you know, yeah, there are other ways to do it, and there are artists that do like particular type of painting, and they've been painting forever, and they have their way that they like to do it, and they actually take their paint and they mix in, you know, a certain amount of the oil, whatever medium they use, you know, before they even paint. There's people selling their own paints that have like the right amount of medium mixed in with the paint already. There's formula, oh, you need 3 parts this, 2 parts that, mix it up, this and that. Only use this at this stage, then switch over to this medium at that stage. Just forget all that. That stuff is stupid. All right, it's not stupid. Like, it works for them. It's great for them. It's like you trying to do that starting out is like you trying to play basketball and you go and you get, you know, LeBron James's workout, LeBron James's game plan, and all the plays he does, and you're like, all right, I'm going to start there. I'm going to start with what LeBron James is doing, and I don't know how to play basketball, but that's where I'm going to start, using what he uses. Like, it's not going to work. It's just it's too much. You got to keep things simple. So just get some linseed oil. It slows the drying time, which is what you want. You might be scared of the slow drying time, but that's the point of oils, is it's, you know, slower. Use that to your advantage. I made tons of videos on this already. You can go back and look at them. Just get some little bit of linseed oil, get some paint thinner. When you want to get some paint off your brush, use the paint thinner. When you want to make the paint flow a little better, get some linseed oil. You're not going to get it right the first time. You know, you just do it as you're painting. You're like, oh, I'm painting and painting. All right. Oh man, I wish I'd, you know, paint flowed a little better. Let me grab a little of that linseed, dab my brush and a little bit of linseed oil. Oh, there we go. And you will get a feel for it over time. Like, nobody ever sat me down and said, all right, this is how much, you know, medium you need to use at this point. Mix this amount in right here. And then, but once you get to this stage, you're going to use this. No one ever did that. You just feel it out. It'll be fine. Do other people do it differently? Yes. Do other ways work? Yes. But my recommendation, you're just starting out, keep it simple. All right, and that leads me into kind of the last thing, which I feel like a lot of people think that there's some specific formula or process to oil painting. Like, there's a certain steps, like I need to learn the process of how to layer the paint. There isn't. There just isn't. Everybody does it differently. Now, there's certain principles or things you should be aware of when you're painting, certain things that can make it easier, but even those aren't set in stone. Like, I personally like to paint thin to thick, dark to light. Does it mean you have to do that? No. There's people that don't do that, and they're amazing. So don't think that you need to learn that there's some set process that every oil painter knows and follows on how to build a painting. Like, I've never thought about layers in a painting, ever. I just painted and kind of figured out, yeah, you can do an underpainting. I guess that's a layer. But it's never, I never paint a painting thinking about the layers. Now, there might be layers. I'm just not aware of it. But no one ever sat me down and said, all right, I'm going to teach you the layers of the painting today. No. I mean, I have a process that is specific to me and that I like, but the only way you're going to find out that how to, you know, what works for you is by practicing and testing out different things, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't. You know, some people draw with charcoal to start the thing. Some draw with pencil. Some draw with a brush. Some don't draw at all. Some paint an underpainting in acrylic paint. Some paint it in like an oil paint and burnt umber. Some people paint it in red. Some people paint it in yellow. Do what works for you. All right, there you go. Those are the most common misconceptions about oil paint that I see. I'd love to hear some that you think, or certain things that you feel concerned about that you want answers to. If you have questions about anything, please leave those questions in the comment section. I will answer them. If you want to see what I'm painting on a daily basis, you can follow me on Instagram at Forza43. I am Chris Fornatero here telling you to go get painting.